Hey guys, it's Frank from GoPro Wrestling. I'm here with EC NEGRO, El Rey, the King of New York. How you doing, man?
Good, brother. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, man. All right, so guys, August 10th, this man right here will be facing the King of Dong Style, Joey Ryan, at the VFW of Bergenfield, New Jersey. So let's go back to the beginning. I want to know your background, all right?
Yeah, for sure.
So where are you originally from?
All right, so I'm of Puerto Rican and Cuban descent. I was born in the Bronx, New York, and the wrestling school that I'm affiliated with is the Doghouse Wrestling Academy. That's a very notorious school in New York. It's probably the toughest school in New York as well. And I was trained by D. Arazo or Nelson Arazo, that's Homicide from Impact Wrestling, and a lot of great guys came out of that school.
Big names, man. So how'd you get into wrestling? Like, you were growing up watching it, or you just...
My brothers had it on from day one. It was always on in the house. My dad used to take my two brothers to the original Madison Square Garden in the early 80s, and it was always on, and I just fell in love with it at a real early age.
Who was your favorite growing up?
Roddy Piper, man, for sure. My favorite of all time, though, it's a good trivia question, but it's Too Cold Scorpio. I was a big fan of his. I saw Clash of the Champions, his debut. He teamed up with Ron Simmons to wrestle Tony Atlas, Cactus Jack, and the Barbarian, and I was hooked. I saw the 450 splash, and I was like, that's my favorite wrestler of all time. That changed my life, for real.
And growing up, like, as a kid, did you play other sports? I mean, you're Cuban. You know you play baseball, man.
I mean, you know, the family was into baseball and stuff, but the house legitimately was always a sports entertainment house. I had two older brothers that were always wrestling me. We had the LJN figures. I mean, wrestling figures were always in my house. And I remember, like, being young, I would walk down the street and slap, like, the trees and the fences like they were wrestling fans. I was always into...
Always practicing.
Always, bro. Always, man.
So we talked about, like, who you liked growing up, but, like, in terms of, like, your character, who are some people that you looked up to?
Wow, so Roddy Piper definitely is number one on the list. As far as being a true heel in the early 80s, there was no one better than Piper. You know, everybody talks about Ric Flair and how great of a heel he was, and yes, he was. He was a fantastic heel. But Roddy Piper pushed the envelope in ways that if it was done today, would have been seen as racist, sexist, and I was always attracted to that. I liked that he was a larger-than-life character. He talked a lot of trash, and he backed it up. And being in New York, WWF television was really... you know, number one until you got cable. You were watching WWF, so Piper was definitely number one. My two older brothers were very big into WWF, and they would always have VHS tapes playing. Most people don't even know what VHS tapes are anymore, but they had VHS tapes playing of WWF stuff from the late 70s all the way to, you know, the early 80s, and they were on constant rotation in my house. The first wrestlers I remember seeing were Don Morocco and Rocky Johnson and guys like that. And as time went on, I just fell in love more with the sport. There was a magazine called Pro Wrestling Illustrated. They came out with the PWI 500 magazine, and I was hooked. I used to read the results in the back of every show locally in the area, and I started learning a lot of names. And also with my friends, we would pick random numbers from 1 to 500 and wrestle as guys from the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. And then in 99, 2000, I found the Doghouse Wrestling Academy, and the rest is history, man.
Oh, speaking of PWI, I saw you were ranked at one point.
Yeah, I got ranked a few times, man. I was, you know, back then it was a big honor. You know, now not so much. They say the magazine is rigged. A lot of people pay for their rankings and stuff like that. But to be ranked in the PWI 500, being someone that used to buy the magazine every month was huge for me, man.
Oh, that's a dream come true.
Yeah, no, it legitimately is, yeah, for sure.
So tell us about, you started wrestling like full-time at what year?
Yeah, 2001. I was training in 2000 under Homicide. Low Life Louie also, Homicide, and Lathon, who went by the name of the Tower of Torture. I was trained by those three, and then Homicide really took me under his wing. And at the time I met my tag team partner, I was in a tag team called the Dirty Rotten Scoundrels for a long time. My tag team partner, Casey Blade, we met at the Doghouse. We joined the school on the same day together. And the first thing I asked him, and I didn't even know him, was like, can I give you a German suplex? Because I was green and just wanted to do moves and stuff, didn't understand the business. And he let me, like an idiot. And we just started feuding, and they made us a tag team, and the rest was history. We did really well.
Yeah, you had a long run together.
Yeah, huge run, man. I wish tag team wrestling was more prevalent like the way that it is now. It's getting very popular again. When we were teaming up in the early 2000s, there were only a few teams that like legitimate teams that you knew you were going to fight every week. It was the SATs or the All Money Is Legal, the Christopher Street Connection, the Solution, guys like that, and you were constantly running into them over and over again. Yeah, man. You know, in the late 80s and the early 90s, you had tons of teams. You know, the Road Warriors, the Steiner Brothers, the Bulldogs, the Hart Foundation, Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik, Midnight Express. I go on, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. You had all these different tag teams, and people actually stuck together for years as a tag team. That's so hard to do now. When they came up with the makeshift tag team of taking two random people and putting it together, to me, the art form of tag team wrestling kind of got tarnished. And then you're seeing these tag teams that were teaming together for 10 years, losing to guys that were put together for 2 or 3 months to kind of, you know, kind of put a bad light on tag team wrestling. I mean, that's my opinion. But now it's being taken more seriously. You got teams like the Young Bucks and my guys LAX, you know, which they're about to wrestle on the Jericho Cruise in a few weeks, which is pretty, which is pretty awesome. So there's a lot of possibilities now with all these wrestling companies kind of working together, which makes tag team wrestling even more popular now.
And do you think some of that, like putting just random guys together on a team, is because of like the whole generational gap where we don't have a attention span for that long? Like we don't want to pay attention to the same team.
I mean, I know for a fact now that like GIFs or GIFs or however you pronounce it, they're more popular now than actually watching matches. You know, which sucks because it takes a lot to tell a story in a match. So if you're, I mean, it's great for wrestling too, but I wish that people's attention spans were a little bit higher. You can't do 5-minute promos no more. People turn it off. There was a study recently that says that people's attention span is only 2 minutes. Yeah. So it's hard. I talk a lot, so it's hard for me to fit in everything that I can say in 2 minutes.
You absolutely have the time to talk, man.
You know what I'm saying? But you know, social media does well, you were talking about the generational gap, right? There's a lot of positives and negatives with it. I don't think it has anything to do with tag team wrestling. I just think the fact that you can read spoilers online nowadays, and the fact that you don't have to be in an event to see an event being streamed on the internet, it hurts wrestling. But it's also great as a worker because it's so much easier for promoters to see your stuff nowadays and for you to contact different companies to work at. So there are pluses and minuses to it.
A plus could also be like, I mean, I've noticed recently, like, pro wrestling's gotten so popular online.
The boom is happening again, man, yeah.
Crazy amount of fans all the time. So, I mean, it does help, but at the same time, I understand what you're talking about.
It hurts and it helps. It's a gift and a curse, and you take the good with the bad, and you just try to adapt as much as humanly possible and make the best of any situation. But the internet, there's definitely a lot of positives to the internet.
So, your character, how much of that is you? How much of that is some guy you just saw and you're like,
I think it's all me, you know, as far as like the creativity of the character and things of that nature. But I'm not a real, I mean, people might say that I am, but I'm really not that guy in real life. I was taught to be in character at all times. That's how you were trained in the early 2000s coming up in the business, to always be in character and to kind of not break kayfabe at all. And wrestling now, one of the disadvantages of the internet is that kayfabe is broken at all times. You could be feuding with someone, and then 20 minutes later after the match, you're thanking them for the great match, and you're doing the poses and the pictures and stuff like that. And that's cool, but it kind of diminishes the art form of wrestling and that belief of good guy versus bad guy. And I feel like the fans don't buy into it when they don't believe it as much. So I think keeping kayfabe alive is very important, and it's still alive. It's just only certain people are doing it. You know, wrestlers are the ones that should dictate what the fans get. It should never be what the fans dictating what the wrestlers get. So we have to do a better job of keeping kayfabe alive, and I think the fans would appreciate it a lot more.
You definitely do a great job.
Yeah.
Personal experience.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that a lot because I don't have I'm a very good wrestler, but I stay behind my character because I know what works and what doesn't work. But at the same time, if I have to, I could be very technical. I could do a lot of chain wrestling, a lot of grappling and stuff like that. But I noticed that people react more to the heel work, and it's a lost art form now. There's only a few guys that are doing it well, MJF, Darius Carter, myself. There's only a few real heels out there that portray it online and in person. And when you do that, it's a special thing, and you get a lot of older fans coming up to you and thanking you and appreciating it. The younger fans, not so much, but the older fans definitely do.
Like you're saying, like I followed Tommaso Ciampa. He is always in character, and I respect his heel work more because of the fact that he stays in character all the time.
Right. If you saw him posting pictures with Johnny Gargano, it would completely diminish all the hard work that they put into building the storyline for such a long period of time. And he's in the best machine that you could possibly be in. He works for the Matrix. He works for WWE. So he has all the right tools, and it's okay for him to be that character. It's people are embracing that. On the Indies, I don't know if he could do a lot of that stuff. It's different. It's a different ball game. And on the Indies, also, a guy will be in one town one night and another town the next night for different companies. So they might ask him to be a babyface on a Friday and then a heel on a Saturday. So there's a lot of advantages and disadvantages. Yeah, it's very hard.
Speaking of Tommaso Ciampa, you had a recent tryout at NXT. Let's hear about that.
I mean, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. They don't select a lot of people to go over there, so to be able to be chosen, even if it was for extra work, to go over there and see how everything is run was a true honor and pleasure, and it makes you want to be there 10 million times more. You see the camaraderie, you see the teamwork, but I also saw some real stuff. A lot of guys that are on the sidelines not being used. It's crazy. Like, there's so much talent over there. When I was there, it was right before, and I probably went at a bad time, but it was right before WrestleMania, so they were setting up all the storylines and finishing them up to get to TakeOver in New Orleans. So there was a lot of guys just, like, great talent too. Dijak and Leo Rush wasn't getting used yet, and War Machine wasn't getting used. A lot of great talent just sitting on the sidelines, and even tons and tons of more talent on the sidelines. So it's great to see, and it makes you really want to work hard to try to accomplish that goal.
That's a place you want to be at.
It's the #1 place you want to be at for anybody that wants to be in this business. It's the place to make the most money at. It's insane because you're walking up and it's actually Full Sail, like you're seeing the atmosphere, you're seeing the whole outside that they film every week and the people standing there and stuff like that. And then when you walk inside, it's like you're in the hallway and Shawn Michaels is walking right past you, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or Triple H is standing 10 feet away from you and you want to go shake his hand, but you're so intimidated. You know what I mean?
You're trying to be professional, but at the same time, the fan
You don't want to be
out.
a mark. No, you don't. They'll be like, next, you got to go. You want to be as professional as humanly possible. So you try to be as respectful with people as you possibly can, and be visible so that if they need anybody or an extra hand, they come looking for you. I got to meet everybody else but Triple H. He's very hands-on with the talent, and he has so much stuff going on. Even the day of, the people that were shaking his hands, or got the opportunity to shake his hand, he didn't really engage with them at all. It was just a legit shake of hand, and that was it. So for me, it was better to kind of just play the background and just kind of take everything in. I was sitting in the TV studio a lot, and then they have this giant classroom where everybody goes and watches the show once it goes live. But I sat it's awesome, man. You get there, you sign waivers, You shake everybody's hand. You wait in the locker room. They booked 1 or 2 talents that day. Johnny Silver got the call that day. He fought Lars Sullivan, if I remember correctly. So, you know, he leaves, and you're just networking and talking to people, and that's what that's what this business is really about. It's who you network to and who you.
Were you able to meet some good people?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm going back, so I'm excited about that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm going back actually the 23rd of August. So. So, you know...
how do you prepare for that? Like,
you don't. No? You don't. You try not to eat too many peanut butter pretzels the day before you go, so you don't have all that sodium in you. And you just go there and you hope for the best, because you never know. But it's an honor to be... You know, they have thousands of guys emailing them, and they only select like 12. So to be one of the 12 and to get called back is really, really cool.
I mean, as a fan, I know that it costs $1,500 for us to just walk in there. So,
right.
I mean, you getting to try out is like crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we'll see what happens. You know, the last few months I've tried out for Ring of Honor, and you know, I've gone to NXT, and I'm just waiting for the opportunity to get that call. And you know, when it happens, because I'm a firm believer that it will happen, I'll be able to show my style of wrestling, which is a very different style than a lot of people are very accustomed to nowadays. It's very fast-paced. I feel like the psychology lacks in certain aspects, and I'm a firm believer that less is more, and what's old becomes new again. So, you know, come back and be this great heel character that people will buy into and want to see get beat up every week.
I mean, heels have become popular now, like, because people want to hate somebody.
I'm pretty popular right now.
For real.
I was. We just recently came out with my first T-shirt, and I was very iffy on, you know, staying true to the character and being a heel and saying, okay, well, I don't want to sell merch because I want people to dislike me. And when I went to the Ring of Honor tryout, Bully Ray was like, listen, if you're not in this business to make money, get the F out. Straight up, just like that, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it made a lot of sense. You should use every stream of social media, any avenue you can to make money in this business. You should, because it's about providing for your family and making sure that they're secure when it's all said and done.
Absolutely. Like, and you use social media to promote yourself all the time.
I think I'm one of the best at social media, and I'm not going to get the credit for it, but I'm one of the first to use Facebook Live to get people to really react to me. And on Facebook Live, you can't cut, man. Like, you have to cut your promo and that's it. And I've always trained myself to be a one-take guy. So I try to use it to my advantage, and I get thousands of hits, man. I'm very honored for that, you know, that people are starting to appreciate my work more. Because being the age that I'm at, it's difficult, man. You know, they got all these young lions out there trying to take my spot.
Listen, man, you're in your prime right now. So
I know. No, but I want to be humble too, because I am humble, and I've been through a lot in this wrestling business. I've had it taken away from me, and I'm very honored to be in a ring, man, and to be able to perform. Even at this age, it's a blessing. I
was going to ask you. You were out of the ring for 3 years. It was.
So at the time, I was doing the Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with my partner, and I felt like we were at a point where we needed to go up or we needed to stop, because we were always a top-tier tag team, but nobody was picking us up. And I felt like at the time I was doing the majority of the work as far as networking. But how can you be the hated one and be the one that's networking? Right. And then the one that's loved and everybody appreciates and thinks is so cool is not doing any of that work. So it was straight shoot. I just told him, I was like, yo, bro, if you're not gonna commit to this, I'm gonna be out, and I'm gonna show you that you need me. And I left. I decided to call it a day, and I missed it. I followed wrestling all the time, and he did nothing with it. And I set him up, you know, great with leaving as a baby face, and it gave him an opportunity to kind of go in that direction if he wanted to. And he just never put in the work after it was all said and done. But business is business, man. And I'm 3 years older than him, or 2.5, around that. So, you know, at the time, you want... Tag team wrestling is like a marriage, right? The most successful tag teams are the ones that travel together, they eat together, they're on the same page. It's like being married legitimately. So I felt like at the time he had difficulties with his girlfriend and other things, and we just weren't on the same page anymore. It kind of got stale, and I'm happy that I made the decision.
Man, I think you made the right decision now. I mean,
it hurts, you know, like that's my brother, and like it sucks because I always wanted to do it with him, but he's very happy for me now, you know. He hits me up randomly. He's like, "I'm so proud of you," and that's great, you know. That it makes me feel like, okay, well, at least we're good, and that's more important than wrestling anyway, is our friendship. So as long as we're good, that's all that really matters, you know. The Ring of Honor tryout was 2 days, and it was all day. It was 12-hour days, both days. And they had a lot of people there in the camp. Bubba Ray Dudley was there, Joey Matthews was there, Danny Cage, my guy from the Monster Factory, he was there. Delirious, Cheeseburger, Jonathan Gresham, Will Ferreira. There was a lot of, Bob Evans was there. There was a lot of people there to give good feedback. And they have you cutting promos. They separate the classes within two. So they have you cutting promos on one side. And then on the other side, they have the wrestlers doing drills. Then when everybody's done, they switch. Then they have you work a match, and they critique it. And the same day you come back, they say, okay, the nerves are out now. The first day's over. Now let's really get it going. Whereas at NXT, you're just like a machine. Like you're just sitting there. You're serious. It's a different vibe. It's completely different. The main trainer at NXT, it's the guys that they like. When I was there, the day that I was there, it was all business. So it wasn't really like an opportunity to train per se. They were running their show in a few hours, so you're going there and you're just meeting everybody and networking and stuff. So it wasn't really a tryout. It's you go down there to do extra work, but they're looking at you while you're doing the extra work. But the ROH one was definitely a tryout. That was a 2-day, 24-hour trip.
What was your feedback from ROH?
It was very, very positive. You know what I'm saying? They were really fans of the character. They loved the promos. And I tried being different than everybody else. Everybody was trying to get their moves in and stuff like that. And for me, I was just trying to show the character, sell, show my footwork and stuff like that. I think, we'll see what happens with that.
You got any feedback from Bully about your character?
That'd
be the guy.
I got some feedback from Bully. All right, I could tell you that one off camera. It was a very humbling experience dealing with him.
I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. He's a very intimidating guy, but to see him give you a thumbs up for a promo and to be like, yo, it was pretty dope, man. For me, the promo, the charisma, the people underestimate my footwork. Like I know the ring like the back of my hand. I know where to be. I know how to call a match as well, like very well. I always call the match to my opponent's strengths and just add in my stuff in between. So that's, as a heel, a lot of the times you're the one dictating the tempo of the match and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of strengths. My weaknesses might be my age, to some people. It's the nature of the business, you know what I mean? That's what it is. But I really do feel like I have a lot to offer a major wrestling company, and I think I can make a major company a lot of money.
I saw Ric Flair wrestle till he was like, what, 60, 70
years
old?
Yeah, he did. And did the same match all the time, just in different spots, and people loved it. And I think wrestling is getting back to that. We're in the big boom right now, and you have so many different types of wrestling. You have intergender wrestling, which is huge now. So I want to be a part of every aspect of wrestling and contribute in any way that I can.
The thing that people don't see, like you said, fans hate you, but like how you're talking, I hear you talking about being a team player, basically. Like
yeah, it's the most important
their strength instead of your strength. Like how many people want to do that?
Yeah, I believe that when you're confident in your ability, you're not worried about the next man in any way, shape, or form. You're not worried about losing your spot. You're not worried about losing an opportunity because you know that you're a good performer and you know that you're going to do your job. If, you know, the independence is a shady business just because it's not run by professionals a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? You have people that throw shows just to throw shows. But when you go to a big market company, you know, the Ring of Honors, the Impact Wrestlings, which Impact Wrestling has been fantastic the last few months. I mean, they've stepped up leaps and bounds, you know. They're kind of on that run that TNA was on years ago when Samoa Joe and AJ and all those guys were there. It's starting to come back to that. So it gives another great platform for people to work at. And WWE, which is the #1 platform. So when you have professionals running it, they'll see that ability and they'll milk it for everything that they possibly can. So, you know, that's what I'm hoping for.
Is Impact a place you would try out at?
I want to be on television. So I would wrestle for any major company, MLW, Lucha Underground, you know, Impact, WWE. I'd like to go to Japan as well. So there's a lot of things that I want to do and goals that I think I'm going to accomplish in the next year or so.
Well, let's shift a little to outside of the ring.
Right.
Like you started promoting. Let's talk about your company.
Yeah.
Well, you said we could
Nah, it's completely cool. You know, in the beginning, I was like I was telling you off camera, I was very uncomfortable with letting people know that I was the man behind NYC Wrestling, to the point that I created this fake account called Freddie Marks, and and I'm the guy that shares everything under Freddie Marks because I don't want it to be affiliated with EC Negro at all. You know, Jarrell and EC Negro, I want that to be a completely separate entity. So I didn't want people to see me, you know, promoting under my wrestling name a new company. But now that the cat's kind of out of the bag a little bit, I'm very proud of what we're doing with this company. And I feel like we're heading in the right direction and we have a lot of great talent. So I'm very proud to say that I'm booking that company.
Oh yeah, and we've talked about it. You're not like a selfish guy. Like your matches aren't like intended for you to be this big time guy all the time. Like you do your character, you stay in your thing. It doesn't always have to be a win for you. And that's
no, I think the heel should lose like 90% of the time. But a good heel, they won't talk about that he got beat. They'll talk about how good the match was, and people just don't realize that. It took me a long time too. When I was coming up in the business, I had a huge ego. We all do, because we believe that we are who a promoter decides that we're going to be. You know what I'm saying? And that's the furthest thing from the truth. You have to be a team player. You have to work with people, and you have to elevate your opponent. The best way to get booked through me or just in general is to be a talent that can make other people look good, someone that promotes every show that they're on, not certain companies because they're the bigger company. You got to promote every single company that you're in. It's your business. You're promoting you. You're not promoting the show. You're promoting that you're on the show, right? You want to be able to sell tickets to this event, so you have to be able to promote yourself well and just be able to adapt and not complain, man, because when you don't complain, people remember that, and when that big spot comes, they'll be like, yo, this dude was great to me for years. It's time, you know? Let's give him that opportunity. So that's through learning in the business. But NYC Now You Create, I'm very proud of it. It's a hip-hop oriented company that really represents the essence of New York, obviously with the initials NYC. We wanted something that fans were gonna chant and be proud of. And I feel like those initials, NYC, even if you weren't a wrestling fan and you heard people chanting NYC, you would wanna chant that. And it stands for Now You Create. And we wanna give every wrestler on our platform an opportunity to create something and be remembered. Like I was telling you guys also off camera, we have our group #Dope. That's William Coltrane and Johnny Ball. And they travel to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, wherever. If people want to film promos, they're going to go and film it. So you have access to that. You have access to us pushing everybody like they're equal. And I think it's going to be a company that's going to be very successful once it really catches on.
It's going to be soon. Let's talk about the card for the event coming up. August 10th.
Yeah, the card. Let's talk about it. So right there. I'm very proud of this card because if you understood the strings that we had to pull to make this card happen, and my vision for what we have on this show, I'm very proud of it. We have representatives of Lucha Underground, Impact Wrestling, and Ring of Honor on this show, as well as a lot of the top young talent on the independents. So I feel like the show is stacked from top to bottom. Each match is going to provide something different, but you are going to get something good out of each match. And it's going to give a lot of people the opportunity to create memories and showcase their talent. Our main event is a first-time ever match. Teddy Hart versus Flip Gordon, which I think is going to be a dream match. You know, if you're a real indie fan and you're into the business and you know the history of Teddy Hart in Ring of Honor and you know who Flip Gordon is now in Ring of Honor, these guys are matched perfectly for each other, and I think it's going to be a really great matchup. And we decided to also go off of the Impact Wrestling storyline with the LAX thing that's happening right now with Homicide and Hernandez. So we have the OGs of Eddie Kingston, who is not the King of New York. I heard what you said on TV, dude. You're not the king, I'm the king, jackass. And Homicide versus Santana and Ortiz, LAX. You got myself versus Joey Ryan. Jay George, who wasn't even booked on my first show, he came to the building and came upstairs with his bag, and I was like, you have some balls, you're booked. Just like that. Wow. He was not booked, no interest in using him, but he came ready to work and he got booked, he did well, and he's been booked ever since. He's wrestling Ace Romero, who just went viral with that big shot he gave the dude in upstate New York where he flew outside the ring and stuff. So we wanted to take advantage of that and bring in Ace, who's a great worker, a great big man. And my sleeper match for the show, which is Vince Steele, he's very underrated. I've known Vince for a long time, and he's very, very talented, very agile for a big man. And the Jurassic Juggernaut, like my son is laughing right there because we all call him the Jurassic Juggernaut all the time, which is, you know, it's pretty funny. But he's wrestling Riot Rays from the GOAT, and he's very underrated too. He very reminiscent to Bam Bam Bigelow to me. He's very agile for his size. And I think it's going to be a great matchup between two big guys, and we've been building to that from the first show. And today we announced an 8-man gauntlet match with 8 of the top lightweights in the area. And in general, we got Myron Reed coming from AAW. He's very, very good. Max Stardom, who was just on 205 Live a few days ago, like I was telling you about. Jordan Oliver, who's making his NYC debut, he's very talented. He just came off of losing the SWF lightweight championship, so he's a top guy in the area and the lightweight scene. And Casey Navarro, who's another top guy, who people say he's my son because we have the same hairdo and we wear the same colors and stuff like that. He's in that match. Hot Dog Starks is in that match, and at our last show, he wrestled Cheeseburger. We did the first ever hot dog versus cheeseburger match, and he did such a good job that I wanted to reward him and put him in there with some very good lightweights. And Pinky Sanchez is in the match. Also, Black G's is in the match. And I think I covered everybody. No, and MV Young from Capital Wrestling. I like him a lot. He reminds me of Dean Ambrose or John Moxley. And I want to give him the opportunity. So it's a good mix of talent. You're going to get a little bit of everything, and we have some surprises that we're going to pull out that day as well. So it should be a good show. Oh, and there will be alcohol, so. Yeah. We'll be doing $5 Henny shots and stuff like that. So it should be, yeah, it'll be a good show. We want to give a little bit of everything. So I think we covered all the bases, and the show should be really solid.
Definitely. I mean, I saw the card and I instantly wanted to go myself. So.
That makes me happy, yeah, because you didn't know that it was me before you asked me to come on, and then once I told you that I was running the company, it was like, yeah, you gotta come on. So it means a lot to me that you, as a real wrestling fan, that you appreciated the lineup. The challenges are pleasing all the wrestlers, negotiating money with wrestlers, the stress of being the promoter as well as a performer and still having to do all your other responsibilities as a wrestler. You know, I do have other shows that I work for and other companies that I work for. But when you become a booker or an owner of a company, your heart and your time goes into your company, man. It's hard, man. It's really not easy. Like, a part of me wishes that I didn't pick it up now, so that I could kind of just focus on my career more. But the opportunity fell into my lap, and we're gonna just take full advantage of it and try to give everything 100%. But there are a lot of challenges: booking buildings, making sure you draw fans to a show. Because even if you spend a lot of money, that doesn't mean that people are gonna go to your show. So you have to make it appealing to them. And we've been trying with, you know, infusing the hip hop and having the different album covers and stuff like that. We want to cover the culture of New York and just make it, you know, a bigger brand like that.
Promoting a certain event, like, how do you go about doing that? Like, how do you plan that?
I feel like you have to take advantage of social media, and I feel like I'm one of the better wrestlers that do take advantage of social media. You'll always see something of mine on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you're at. So I kind of use those methods of that, you know, the fake name that I told you about, the Freddie Marks. I'm in all the internet chat rooms, all the wrestling chat rooms. You'll see my flyers up there. Every day I'm throwing something up. Boom, boom, match 1, match 2, match 3. When we get promos, when I'm done with you, I'm gonna put my promo up with Joey Ryan. So it's like, it's always about promoting and stuff like that. The hardest part is the carny aspect of it. As far as like going into the streets, literally flyering, literally promoting within the local towns, that's harder, more difficult. But if you do that and you have a good social media presence, people are gonna come to your shows. And I think the fact that I have good relationships with some of the wrestlers and they retweet the stuff, it gets more eyes on it. And I think, I pray that we do good next Friday night. I'm a little nervous, but I think we'll be all right. I want to provide a brand that the boys want to come work at. That's the goal. You know what I'm saying? Where people here, the money's good, you get paid before you wrestle, there's no issues with any money, they give good matches, they give great opportunities, they treat the boys well, it's a family atmosphere, everybody works hard on the shows. You know, that's what you really want to achieve. It's very difficult to achieve that, but hence why I have the Dan Moffs in my locker room and the Homicides in my locker room. You know, those veteran presence, and people see them respecting me, so it makes it easier for them to respect me as well. It's so easy to just throw up a match flyer and just say, you know, Friday night, August 10th, this guy is wrestling this guy. It's another thing to be creative with how you present it and you don't want to have every guy on all the local posters in your company, because now you're telling people, okay, you have to make a choice between this show Friday, this show Saturday, this show Sunday. I try to book guys that aren't typically on other people's shows, so that people are like, I have to go see that show because, you know, this might be the only place that I could see the King of New York, or this might be the only place that I could see Teddy Hart wrestle Flip Gordon and stuff like that. So you want to get creative with that stuff. And the more creative you get and the more steam you start building, the fans will come and they will pay and they will be very happy. So that's the long-term goal for the company. I
mean, the great part about your show coming up is that these guys on the top, I'm probably never going to see them again in my life, like near here. So I'm literally in Bergen County. I live in Bergen County. I get to go to Bergenfield and get to see a bunch of guys that I've watched on the internet because I don't have any other way to watch them. And like you're providing that for us, and that's great.
And I appreciate that you look at it like that. You know, this is Jarrell talking right now. It's very humbling. And when people like you appreciate my hard work, it makes me want to work harder and do more to provide a service for the fans and stuff like that. So we're on to something. You know, you're gonna hit your bumps in the road. You're not gonna always make money. But to build a good wrestling company, you have to be consistent. Your consistency can't be inconsistency, if that makes sense. You have to be consistent with everything that you do. You can't stop because you lost money. You gotta say, okay, we're building this for the long haul. We're not building this as a spot show, and if this show doesn't go well, then we're done. you gotta keep going, because it takes time to build a town up and to have them believe. That's what's so scary about this show, because it is our first time in New Jersey, and we're running in a different building, Ridgefield Park, which does Pro Wrestling Magic, Wrestlers Laboratory, ECPW, all these other companies, IPW, which they have a very solid lineup, and I like what they do a lot. And then Battle Club, right. So we just named 5 or 6 companies that are running in that one building alone. Now you're telling the fans you have 5 choices as to what show you'll see. The most hardcore fan will go to all 5, but the regular wrestling fan will just go to 1. And you want to be able to differentiate yourself so that they choose you over everybody else.
What's your 5-year plan in pro wrestling?
The 5-year plan is very simple. One is, number 1, to get signed to a national TV company, whether it's WWE or Impact Wrestling or Ring of Honor. Those are the top 3 that I'm probably looking at right now. 2 is to buy a house for my mother and father, make sure that they're secure. They sacrificed a lot for me and my family. My mom never worked, and my dad worked and supported 6 kids at one time. So, now that my dad is older, I want to be able to give that back to him. And to also open up a wrestling school, probably within the next year or 2, depending on how other stuff goes with some of my brothers from New York, and building a great training facility that people know that they're going to have to work hard in and give their all in, or they're not going to be a part of the school. A lot of people go to wrestling schools nowadays to hang out with the trainer because they were on TV, they're fans of theirs, or whatever the case may be. We want to provide a school that people are going to really work hard to, and to build NYC and to start opening up different avenues for myself, not only within wrestling, but I have a lot of other ideas that we could utilize wrestlers in that have nothing to do with wrestling, that I hope with the right people, the right film crew and things of that nature, that we could accomplish some stuff like that. Wink, wink. So yeah, all that stuff, and to just supply the fans with happiness.
So once again, guys, August 10th at the VFW in Bergenfield, New Jersey, we're going to have...
Shut your damn mouth, jackass. This is El Rey all day. Next Friday, 8/10/18. Protect your neck. NYC Wrestling. Now you create. We come to Bergenfield, New Jersey with New York swag, with originality and matches that you've never seen before. I guarantee all your jabronis at home that you are going to come to the show, you're going to watch the show, and you're going to throw money in the ring. Not because of any other wrestler, but the creator, the king of New York, the #1 man in all the land. Come to the show, and you could also follow us at NYC Wrestling on Twitter and Instagram, and El Rey all day on Twitter and Instagram. Jackass! That's it, yeah?
Oh man, I need to learn how to do that.
Hey, you just gotta do it, man, But guys, seriously, I appreciate you guys hitting me up and asking me to be a part of the show.
Definitely.
I really appreciate more the fact that you moved the time forward for me in order to promote my show. That means a lot to me as well. You don't understand. It really, really does mean a lot. And when you have people like you guys that are giving back to the business, there's no better feeling, man.
Glad to have you, man. Thanks so much, man.
My brother, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.